Hey guys, alright? Welcome everyone. The story begins in the savannah during Simba's reign. Timon and Pumbaa are very proud to have been called to assist in royal security, but when Simba explains that he will be away with Nala and the two will take care of their cub, they begin to understand that their role is more of a babysitter. Simba asks them to behave in an adult manner, at least in front of the child, and also tells them not to tell stories. They are shocked by the prohibition, but Simba reminds them that he was raised by them and knows very well how their tales go. Young Kiara whines as she says goodbye to her father, but Simba promises he will be back soon. The king barely turns his back, and the two immediately start telling a story, fabricating facts that never happened and exaggerating their own heroism. Kiara has already heard her father's account of the same events and points out some discrepancies, but her babysitters assure her that the liar is Simba. Then the weather begins to change, and luckily for the little lioness, Rafiki comes to visit her. Kiara confesses she is afraid of thunder and laughs when he promises her she will be brave once the storm passes. He tells her that her father was also a cub and gained his courage over time. Hearing about Simba's childhood, Kiara becomes curious about her grandfather, and then Rafiki decides to tell his story from the beginning. We see Mufasa as a young cub with his parents, Afia and Masigo. His mother talks to him about the mythical kingdom of Malil and explains that this name means forever. Afia's greatest dream is to take Mufasa to Malil, but she says that closing his eyes is enough to visit this paradise right now. She also explains that in this kingdom, everything lives in eternal harmony and any challenge can be overcome. The collective delirium is interrupted by raindrops, which are received with great celebration by the animals since they live in a very arid region. Wide puddles form, where elephants quench their thirst, and everyone refreshes themselves. It is then that the puddles begin to overflow too much, and what came as a blessing soon becomes a danger. A giraffe helps Mufasa climb onto a rock, as it has already gotten too deep for him. Afia becomes afraid of losing sight of him and calls him close, but now the water level has risen so much that he cannot get down from the rock. Just then, the flood arrives in the valley in huge waves, swallowing everything in its path. Mufasa is swept away by the current, and Masigo dives in to save him, but the force of the current separates them again. When Mufasa manages to get out of the water, his mother is just a few meters away from him. The path between them is difficult, and he needs to balance himself to avoid falling. She calls his name and pleads with him to try to get closer, urging him to put one paw at a time. But the cub takes too long to muster the courage, and a wave crashes into him, separating the family for good. Mufasa clings to a trunk and drifts until the water carries him closer to dry land, where another lion cub appears wanting to befriend him. His name is Taka, son of King Obesai, and he warns Mufasa that he is about to become an alligator's meal. Terrified, he begins to swim as fast as he can, despite his inexperience with water sports. Arriving at the bank, he climbs a small rise and almost slips back down, but Taka catches him by his paws. Then Queen Esh arrives and drives the alligators away with a powerful roar. Once the scare is over, Taka introduces his new friend to his mother and says they can't just leave him there. She laments, but the rules must be respected, and King Obesai will never accept that his family adopts an abandoned cub. Mufasa explains that he was not abandoned, but merely lost from his parents. He tells about the flood, and his story softens the queen's heart, who then agrees to at least try. Taka's home is so pleasant that Mufasa asks if he is in Malil, but Esh says no. She doesn't even need to break the news to her husband when they arrive, as Obesai has already caught the scent of the little intruder and is furious. The king hates outsiders and believes that only family ties are valid, rejecting even other felines. His golden rule is that, when faced with a stranger, the right thing to do is always to eat them on the spot. However, when he tries to explain his viewpoint and describes most outsiders as terrible predators, Mufasa's cute appearance destroys the argument, as it is clear that this frightened cub is not a threat to the pride. Obesai becomes even angrier upon learning that his name is Mufasa. Since this name means king, this can only be an affront to his authority. Confident in his son's abilities, he leaves the decision up to a competition between the young cubs. If Taka wins the race, Obesai will have the loser for dinner. Seizing the opportunity, Esh adds that if Mufasa wins, he will be welcomed into the family. The king agrees, and the race begins. Some sections pass through streams, and Mufasa's despair at moving in the water brings back the trauma, but he continues to strive to do his best. Near the chosen tree is the finish line, the two are neck and neck, and Taka reveals that he has always wanted a brother. With these words, the prince subtly slows down and lets his new friend win the race. Obesai is disappointed but cannot disrespect his own rules. Thus, Mufasa gains a new home, and Taka finally has the brother he wanted. Time passes, and the two grow up together, but Obesai still does not recognize Mufasa as part of his family and always treats him poorly. He tells Taka that one day he will be king and everything will belong to him. That is why he must never let his guard down and must never trust Mufasa, for he is still an outsider and will betray his trust sooner or later. Taka feels upset because he does not believe that his brother would turn against him. Furthermore, he should be learning to be king instead of just watching his father's naps. Since Mufasa is always obliged to stay with the females, he is being trained for hunting. After a long yawn, Obesai admits that his main activity is sleeping but asserts that being king is just that. However, we see that Esh does not think the same way. While she teaches Mufasa to hunt, she tells him that no other male has those skills and predicts that this will make him a unique lion. Tired of his father's snoring, Taka begins to spy on his brother's lessons from afar, until one day something horrible happens. Two white-furred lions sneak in and attack the queen. While Mufasa bravely defends her, Taka crouches in fear and ends up fleeing with the other animals. One of the attackers is defeated when Mufasa throws him forcefully against a fallen tree, and the other retreats. When the king learns what happened, he expresses his gratitude to Mufasa. Meanwhile, the white lion that fled goes to tell the incident to King Kiros, and we discover that the other was his son. Kiros accuses the survivor of abandoning the heir to the throne and turns him over to the females to be eaten. Later, Obesai tells Taka that no one can know about his cowardice, for that is not the behavior of a king. Taka does not want to lie to everyone and replies that he is not yet a king. The conversation is interrupted by a messenger with terrible news. Kiros is on his way with lions much larger than they are. By Obesai's reaction, it is evident that this has always been his greatest fear, as well as the reason for his hatred of outsiders. He used to hear rumors about a group formed by lions rejected by their own prides due to their different appearances. Now he knows that it is all true, and these outsiders are already coming to take his kingdom. Since Taka is the heir prince and Mufasa is the target of the invaders' revenge, Obesai sends both away to protect them. Esh tells Mufasa that he can still reach Malil if he always follows the light on the horizon. The next morning, the white lions arrive intimidating Obesai and his whole pride. Taka and Mufasa do not get very far before Kiros catches up with them, wanting to know which of them defeated his son. Mufasa takes the blame and switches identities with Taka, calling himself Obesai's son to save his friend. Without listening to him, Kiros orders his lions to hunt the two young ones, who soon find themselves trapped between the enemy and a waterfall. Mufasa is still terrified of the water, so Taka gives up on convincing him and opts to cheat, pulling his friend toward the fall. The two swim to a branch, and one of the white lions jumps right after. This time, both the alligator and the current work in Mufasa's favor. The lion that jumped is eaten, and the branch breaks, sending the two young ones far from the danger. Kiros does not give up and hands the task of tracking them to his sisters, Akua and Amara. At night, Mufasa and Taka meet a young lioness named Sarabi. She tells them that Kiros also attacked her pride, and she had to flee. Now she is a little lost but not alone. The bird Zazu is her friend, and she quickly warns that nobody can eat him. Mufasa says they are on the way to Malil, but Sarabi thinks that place does not actually exist. It is at this moment that Rafiki himself, who is recounting this whole story, also appears in it. His group rejects him due to his mystical habits, and there is a vote that decides to banish him forever. Accepting the outcome serenely, he takes his own path alone and soon passes by the trio of lions. Mufasa jumps in front of him with his most threatening pose, but Rafiki simply ignores him, showing no sign of fear. Intrigued, the three begin to surround him, trying to explain that he will be eaten soon and should not be so calm. However, despite still being young, Rafiki already has answers for everything and leaves the predators confused. When he says he is going to meet his brother in a place called Malil, this piques Mufasa's curiosity. The lion says he will let him live if he shows him the way there. Rafiki not only refuses the offer but also says that it is he who will be merciful to the felines. Ignoring this nonsense, Sarabi asks if it is a good idea to follow a crazy person to a kingdom no one has seen. However, despite her disbelief, she cannot hide her amazement every time Rafiki demonstrates his clairvoyance. Mufasa also approaches the wise primate during the trip, and the relationship between them begins to take shape. Although he does not always understand Rafiki's behavior, he realizes that his company makes him a better lion. One day, the group reaches a valley difficult to cross, needing to choose between going down or going around. Mufasa recalls his mother's words, saying that Malil is just beyond a deep valley, and chooses to go down. Sarabi thinks it is safer to go around, but he teaches her the sensory techniques he learned from Esh, and she sees that there is indeed a pride of lions on the other side. While the white lions continue searching for Taka and Mufasa, the two have completely forgotten about this threat because there is something more important to plan. Taka is interested in Sarabi and needs Mufasa's tips, who grew up among females. He advises his brother to talk about where she comes from and to listen closely when she is speaking. Taka then moves forward while Mufasa and Rafiki pretend not to be listening to the awkward conversation that is struggling. A herd of elephants is passing nearby, and Mufasa grows anxious upon noticing this is not their migration pattern. The explanation comes from above when Zazu raises the alarm: the white lions are coming. To make matters worse, they are so large that they can jump across the valley without having to go down or around. The only thing that can save the group is the elephants. Mufasa tries to politely ask for help, but the giants seem not to hear him. Then Sarabi instructs her friends to be ready to run when she shouts. Climbing a tree, she knocks a beehive down among the elephants, and the bees start stinging them, creating complete chaos. No matter how much Kiros roars and forbids them to run away, the white lions are no match for a stampede of uncontrollable elephants. Unfortunately, in the uproar, Sarabi herself does not escape her own plan and is struck by a huge paw. Seeing his friend in danger, Mufasa crosses the stampede to save her while Taka cowers beneath a rock. All this time, Rafiki has been holding onto a tree branch, which finally breaks when everything calms down. Despite the fall, the primate emerges from the hole with his new staff, which will one day be quite famous. Sarabi only wakes up when everyone is already around her, worried. Rafiki explains to her what happened, but Mufasa interrupts him at the end to modify a detail and says that Taka was the one who saved her. Rafiki does not correct him, always allowing everyone to learn their lessons in their own time. The following night, Mufasa dreams of his family and Sarabi and wakes up frightened. He is starting to fall in love with her but knows this will complicate things with his brother. Now that they are closer to Malil than ever, he asks Rafiki how many of his visions have come true. Without a shred of shame, he says that it has never happened. Instead of arguing with him, Mufasa admires that this does not shake his faith and then continues toward their destination with even more hope than before. Arriving at a mountain covered with snow, he asks Zazu to erase the group's tracks with his wings, preventing the enemies from following them. The plan works, and the bird is very proud of his contribution, but Sarabi says that the genius was Mufasa. Noticing how much she admires his brother, Taka feels sad and jealous. The situation worsens when Mufasa and Rafiki are playing in the snow, and Sarabi overhears him saying, "Got you." He said the same thing when he saved her from the elephants, and this makes her remember that moment. Later, she approaches him and says she knows the truth. It was he who saved her that day, and he is always the one who protects others as well as being capable of hunting and smelling threats. Mufasa feels embarrassed and begins to praise his brother, mentioning the difference between their origins, besides remembering that he owes his life to him. Sarabi disagrees with this thought and states that Taka's destiny is not to rule but to have saved Mufasa's life, who is a natural leader. They both end up confessing their feelings for each other, unaware that Taka is hiding and hearing everything. This fuels his resentment, and he feels wronged after everything he has done for Mufasa. Venting his anger, he ends up having an accident and lands near where the white lions are gathered. Instead of fleeing, Taka makes his way among them and approaches Kiros. He admits that he is Obesai's son but exchanges his claim to the throne for an ally in revenge. Kiros is suspicious and asks why Taka would help him. He replies that it was Mufasa who offended Kiros, taking the life of his son, and as a consequence, Taka lost his entire family. The white lion accepts the idea, and the two decide to become allies. The next day, Mufasa tries to tell Taka about his relationship with Sarabi, but he receives him with coldness and irony. The group resumes their journey without knowing that Taka is leaving marks along the way, indicating the route for Kiros. From the top of the mountain, they catch sight of the kingdom of Malil for the first time and confirm that this paradise truly exists. It doesn't take long for them to finally arrive, finding several other animals in the green and sunny area. Taka dryly congratulates Mufasa, saying that he always gets what he wants. Then Rafiki sees the tree from his visions, where he will reunite with his brother. His joy leaves Mufasa a bit confused, as he does not see any other primates around. But Rafiki explains that the vision is already complete, as the journey to that tree has made Mufasa his true brother. They become emotional, but their joy is ruined when Kiros appears with the white lions. Mufasa does not understand how they found him and swears he would never do anything to jeopardize the safety of Malil. Kiros says that the other animals have nothing to fear and insists on revealing how he arrived there. Upon seeing the look of shock on Mufasa's face, Taka pours out all his bitterness, saying that Mufasa took from him the love of their mother, the respect of their father, and now Sarabi's affection. Kiros says that now Taka is one of his own, and then he goes on the attack, pursuing Mufasa. As the two face off, Sarabi tries to rally the other lions of Malil, but they have all already suffered Kiros's cruelty and do not want to get involved in the fight now that they are finally at peace. When Kiros catches up with Mufasa, the two engage in a savage battle, and Kiros falls into a chasm. Seizing the opening, Mufasa climbs to the highest rock and appeals to all the animals. Until now, they have all lived in their own groups, separated by breeds and species, but this leaves them at the mercy of predators like Kiros. There will always be an excuse to attack the weaker ones, and every refuge will be temporary unless they unite against the aggressor and defeat him once and for all. The speech convinces the audience, and the animals begin to fight together, teaching the white lions a lesson. Furious, Kiros declares war on Malil and throws Mufasa into a cave, where he will attack him next. Taka watches the clash from a distance and begins to regret what he has done, thinking of the happy moments from their childhood. He sees his brother fallen and injured, losing strength to retaliate. When Kiros raises his paw one more time, Taka jumps in to defend him, and the other's claws scratch his left eye, leaving a scar. The battle above continues to rage until the ground begins to shake and parts of the cave collapse, opening a chasm at the bottom. Taka manages to hold on, but the other two fall into the water, and even then Kiros does not give up on attacking Mufasa. Salvation arrives when a massive rock falls, and Mufasa pushes him beneath it. Emerging from the cave, he discovers that the Battle of Malil has also ended and is surprised to see the animals bowing before him. Mufasa asks them to stop and explains that he is not of noble lineage. Rafiki says that doesn't matter, as he is the one who united everyone and brought peace to the kingdom. Mufasa never thought he would one day become the king of Malil, and Rafiki has one more surprise for him: his mother, Afia, is still alive. She has been waiting for him since they were separated and never lost hope of seeing him again. Already taking on the role of advisor, Zazu opines that Taka should be banished forever, but Mufasa says no. Without fully forgiving him, he states that there will always be a place for his brother in his kingdom. Inspired by Rafiki's story, Kiara imitates her grandfather's roar and smiles when she sees that the storm has passed. Moreover, her parents are back with her new little brother, and she immediately asks if he wants to hear a story.